I've been in sales and marketing since I was 17. Marketing is just sales at a greater scale. You got to accept the 80% rule that even if you hire an A player, right off the bat, they're going to be at least 80% of what you could do. If a prospect fills out a lead form or books a call, the likelihood that they're going to pick up the phone and close the same day is a lot higher if it's weeks out in advance.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Mindset to Results. Our guest is John Magnor. He is expert in sales and he helps B2B companies to grow and scale their business. Today we are going to learn so much insights from John. Hi, John.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Before we go to the questions and start our discussion more deeply about sales, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Why are you so passionate about sales and helping businesses to scale?
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. So I've been doing this since was 17. Not this particular business, but I've been in sales and marketing since I was 17. I'm 24 now. Biggest thing that I like about just helping businesses scale is I kind of like the creativity aspect because you already have a business that's making money. I like coming in and kind of just being, the fire starter and really helping out businesses. And the biggest thing for me is I really like building sales teams. The biggest thing that I like to do is train other sales reps get better. Because at the end of the day, really what you're doing with sales is you're helping others. You're helping others, whether you're selling B2C or B2B. Ultimately, if you have a great product that you're selling, you're helping them get a better result. So, yeah, I work with B2B companies that are already making money. I come in there, I build out different systems and processes, typically in the marketing and sales space, build out their sales team so that they can actually scale predictably.
Amazing, it is very impressive. Like at 24, you have such a great experience and expertise and passion to help businesses to grow. Yes, thank you for being guest at our podcast. I'm sure that our listeners will learn so much from you today. So, our first question is this one that you worked with a lot of B2B companies already. Yes, and they have good products but messy sales. So, what are the three biggest sales system mistakes you see founders making over and over again, and how should they fix them?
Yeah, great question. So, a big thing that I preach when I come into companies is not blocking off marketing and sales in their own separate vacuum. You got to have continuity between both of the vehicles because in reality, marketing and sales are the exact same thing. Marketing is just sales at a greater scale. So, number one, what you got to do is marketing has got to understand what sales is doing, and sales has got to understand what's going on with the marketing. If a sales rep is saying something completely different than what is in the marketing, there's a huge gap. And that's what I see a lot of times when I come into businesses. So, first off, you got to build off a great connection between the marketing and sales team. Both sides should understand where people are coming from. Number two, you got to have a great process for when leads actually come in because you can have a great marketing team, but if sales, and it goes back to having the continuity, if the setter, the appointment setter, or the sales rep doesn't understand where the leads are coming from, and also they're just not having speed to lead. We talk about speed to lead a lot. If a prospect fills out a lead form or books a call, the likelihood that they're going to pick up the phone and close the same day is a lot higher if it's weeks out in advance. So if you have a proper system to have speed to lead, that's going to increase it. And then third is very simple, is a lot of sales teams talk about having, focusing on having high close rates. And when in reality, that's great. You got to build a foundation. So the next step from having speed to lead would be getting show rates to be high. Because if prospects aren't showing up, you can't close deals. So typically we build out proper systems like we're sending them over emails, sending them over text messages before the call. Number one, ensuring that they show up, but number two, that they're showing up educated because the last thing that you want is to have your sales call be an education call, because that's when you get a bunch of objections. In reality, sales should be the prospect hops on, maybe they have a couple questions about the pricing, and then they're good to go. If you build out those proper systems, your sales reps are going to have a way easier job, which is going to be able to just help you scale more profitably as a business.
Now, do you speak here about pre-qualifying people to have them on sales that help them to get people already knowing and ready to buy when they come on sale?
Mhm. Yep, 100%. So, if a prospect can hop on the call with, a handful of testimonials they've already watched a demo, then they're going to be good to go. For example, I work with a lot of software companies, and a big thing is, you know, these guys hop on calls and they really have no idea what's going on. Maybe they've seen an ad, or maybe they've seen your website, but they don't really know, number one, who you guys have worked with, or number two, specifically how you guys can actually help them out. And if a prospect has watched a pre-call demo, just going over the features and going over really what goes on, that takes out all the questions. And then number two, if you have a bunch of testimonials before the call, that can take out a lot of the skepticism. Whereas, the sales call can turn into, maybe a 30-minute call where they're just asking a couple questions and then they're ready to onboard.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing. So the next question is about the company owners, yes, which usually, like in many companies, they are the best closers in their company.
Mhm.
And as you say, they become a bottlenecks, yes. So the
Yeah.
question is, what's the exact process you use to help a founder replace themselves in sales without killing revenue?
hmm Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times the business owner is typically, if they come from a sales background, at least they typically are the best closer, just because they understand, they built the business, they understand their prospects, they understand their pain points, and then most importantly, they understand the product. But a big thing, what I see is, like you said, they become the bottleneck because they don't want to give up that spot. They want to be doing sales 24/7. And if you're trying to scale to crazy numbers like $1 million a month, you're not going to be able to take all the sales calls. So number one, as a business owner, you got to accept the 80% rule that even if you hire an A player, right off the bat, they're going to be at least 80% of what you could do. They're not going to be right off the bat as good as you or better, but you got to understand that. And those are obviously the risks that you need to take to scale. So that's number one. And then a big problem that I see is business owners, they understand everything because they've been doing it. They understand the product, they understand how to close, they understand the objections, but they don't have this stuff written down. So then they just think, oh, well, I'm just going to go out and hire, an A player who's the best closer on planet Earth. And while that works, you need to have proper systems and SOPs for the person to follow. Because even if you hire an A player, but they don't understand the product, they don't understand the systems and processes that go into actually closing the deal, everything from setting appointments to closing deals, handling objections, they're probably going to fail. Um, and a big thing too is you have to build out your SOPs, your systems and processes so deep that you can even hire maybe a 6 out of 10 sales rep and they can be closing at, 35 to even 45%. So systems and processes are huge when you're trying to scale this out.
Yes, it is indeed. So the next question is that if a company wants predictable revenue, what are the non-negotiable parts of a sales system they must build first,
Mhm.
even before they think about hiring more representatives or scaling?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think even before we start talking about the sales systems, you got to talk about having predictable lead flow because if you don't have leads, you're not going to be able to scale your business. So number one, you got to have predictable lead flow. Whether you're scaling with paid ads or scaling with email, you need to have leads that are coming in. Not only that, you need to have people that are within your ICP, your ideal client profile. So that's number one, because before you can even hire a sales rep, you need to have people that are coming in for your sales rep to actually call. I see a lot of businesses to where they think that they can just magically hire a sales rep, but they have nothing going for them on the marketing side. And if you want to keep really high level talent, you're going to have to feed them with leads. So that's going to be number one. Number two, it's going to come down to having proper onboarding systems. So what that looks like is teaching people, product competency, showing them how the CRM works, showing them how the business works, showing them how to actually close the calls, things like that. And then lastly, to keep these sales reps retained and actually performing long term, you're going to have training SOPs. So a training cadence. Typically with my sales teams, we do company-wide meetings Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Um, so they should have a type of training cadence to where they're actually training their skills, whether that's appointment setting, closing deals, asking proper sales questions. And then they should also have to have some training outside of their company. So typically I have sales reps, they're doing training every single morning. Even if we don't have a company-wide meeting, they're doing role play, things like that.
Yeah, very great, great organization. So here you mentioned about constant leads, yeah, and what do you think
Mhm.
now works the best to generate constant leads to business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really just depends on what type of business you're working in. For the businesses that I work with, they're, B2B companies. I mainly work with software companies. Number one is going to be paid ads. So typically, what you're doing when you're scaling your business is you want to focus on one channel. A big misconception is people want to do every single channel. While that is important, once you get to certain revenue levels, you have to master one first. Typically, when I come into a business, we're working on Meta first, so Facebook and Instagram, focusing on that first. Once you have that dialed in to where you have a predictable lead flow, where the people that are coming in every single day, and they're actually qualified, meaning they are your ideal client, they can afford all that stuff, then that's when you can actually scale into another platform. So paid ads, I'd say work the best. And then number two would be cold email. You can send out hundreds of thousands of emails to your ideal prospect. Um, and it is cheaper than paid ads, but it does take a little while to actually be able to scale up.
And where do you get emails of your ideal prospects?
So it depends. There's a bunch of different vendors out there. There's Apollo, there's Zoom Info, there's places like Dun and Bradstreet. So there's a bunch of different vendors online to where you can scrape, and it just depends on the decision maker. Majority of B2B companies, they're working with the CEO or someone in the C-suite level. So that's who they're working with. So you can go ahead, put in your ideal client. Maybe you're working with residential roofing companies that are doing, 1 million to $10 million annually. You can put in all that information on these databases and then say, I'm looking for the CEO or I'm looking for the sales manager. And then they'll scrape the internet of those leads, and then you'll be able to go ahead and then plug that into your email system. So,
Yeah, amazing, amazing tips. Thank you. I find it very beneficial. So, from
yep.
all platforms which people can do ads, what you said, you prefer to start from Meta, Facebook ads. You find it the most effective for now.
Yeah, I would say Meta. It's the most sustainable, I would say for now. Google, there's obviously Google and things like that. I would say Meta, if you're first starting off, is going to get you the most affordable leads and you can scale it quicker. Things like Google, it takes a little longer because how Google works is, they'll go to your website and then they have to fill out a form. Whereas with Meta, everything is native. So if you run a lead form ad, people are filling out the ad on the platform. So it's a lot quicker. So you're going to get a lot more leads with a less budget, if that makes sense. But if you are sending people to maybe a landing page like Google is, you're able to, once you have a high enough ad budget, you're able to get more and more qualified leads because you know that that person has maybe watched a video on your website or been through your website. So they're a little bit more qualified.
Oh, thank you. What about YouTube ads?
YouTube ads are good too. So like Google, LinkedIn ads are good. YouTube ads are good. Um, Honestly, they're really all good. It just depends on what you're looking for specifically. And then, like I said, the biggest thing is you can't have, shiny object syndrome, I like to call it. It's like you got to focus on one platform. They all work. Pick one platform, become a master at it, ensure that you're getting the best results. And then once you feel like putting and adding an ad budget in there is not going to get you 20% lower ad costs, then you can scale into a second channel.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, our
Yep.
next question for you. You started in sales at 17, doing cold calls and closing deals. Looking back, what fundamentals of sales still matter today? No matter the industry tools or market.
Mhm.
What is the same?
Hmm. Yeah, great question. So, I mean, in 2026, there's a bunch of different hacks out there, AI and things like that. There's a bunch of hype, but what's never going to go away is buyer psychology. And that can be applicable for both marketing and sales. Really, what drives people to purchase things? And it works B2C, B2B. You really have to figure out the pain points of your prospect and then build out a gap between where the prospect is right now to where they want to be so wide that it's inevitable that they buy whatever you're selling. So that's something where it's timeless, it's never going to go away, and AI or whatever crazy tool can't take it away in 2026.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it is art of listening. Yes, art of listening. To listen, clients
Mhm.
know exactly what they want, not just to come and just tell them what you have, but listen to
Exactly.
see what is really problem, what is their problem. Maybe even not what they say initially, but that art to understand what is behind, why they do want that. Yes, and when
Mhm.
the client very well, then we can see what how we can help them. Yes, and I also believe that that love and sure to serve. Yes, not to come to the sale call with the goal to have money, to make money, right? But to serve,
Mhm.
provide valuable service and make this client benefit from this service. And this is
Yeah.
how connection will be built and trust will be built, and these clients will be happy to proceed further.
Yeah. A big thing too is obviously in 2026, buyers have heard everything because, everyone's spending money on ads. People have been pitched a million things before. So what they get is they're getting high sales resistance. High sales resistance is, you know, for example, when the guy who's doing bug spray, he shows up at your house and he's door knocking, your immediate reaction is, oh no, I don't want it. Even if you don't know what he's saying, that's high sales resistance. And if you're immediately just trying to pitch someone or tell someone about your product or service without them understanding why they would need it, they're just going to get higher sales resistance. And then the likelihood of you selling them is just very, very low. So yeah, you're definitely spot on with that.
Yeah, genuine interest in people. I think this what all
Mhm.
say. Yeah, when people
Yep.
feel that you are really interested in their progress and their growth, and it is from heart. I think this because this is communication at subconscious level. Yes, it is not only what we say, but
Mhm.
why we say and what we really mean when we say that, right? And
Exactly.
we are honest and really want to help, people will feel this, and this is how they will be more open, and this will break those barriers which people initially may have when it comes for sales calls.
Hmm. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so when you walk into a company, what numbers and metrics do you look at first to know whether the sales machine is healthy or broken?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you got to look at it from the bottom up. It's kind of how I take my point of view when walking to these companies is number one, you got to look at their marketing numbers. So first off, a lot of companies that I work with, they, want me to come in and help them scale, but they just don't have any marketing budget. So that's number one. You got to ensure that they have enough money to spend. You got to take a look at number one, what their marketing budget is. Then, if they're spending money on ads or email or whatever, look at their cost per lead. Those are number one and number two. And then from there, you take a look at the actual sales metrics. So you'll look at number one, the cost per booked call. Then you'll look at the cost per acquisition and then their monthly revenue. So really, there's a bunch of different numbers that you got to take a look at, but you got to look at it from the bottom up because even if a company has a great cost per acquisition, maybe, they have a very, very low cost per acquisition. That's one great metric. But if all the numbers don't align, it's not going to make sense. Like if they're only doing $20,000 a month in revenue and their cost per acquisition is lower, you'd be stupid if you only looked at the cost per acquisition and said, "Oh wow, this is amazing. It must be a crazy good business." And then you take a look at their monthly revenue numbers. So there's a bunch of different numbers to look at. You can't really put one in a vacuum, but that's typically what I do. If they're doing above $150,000 a month and all the numbers make sense, then that's when I feel like, I can come in and actually help them scale.
Wow, amazing, amazing. I think that people who listen to this episode would like to call you straight away. Finish. Yes, you're such a great professional in this, and this all makes such sense. Yes, so let's speak about next question. A lot of teams think they have people problems, but you often say that it's a system problem. How can
Mhm.
a founder tell the difference and what should they fix first?
Great question. So I'd say the easiest way to figure out the difference is if you put, the greatest sales rep in your business and they can't even make a change, then that's when you know you have a systems problem. And that's really at the end of the day, majority of your business problems are when you're first starting off. I can't say, once you're doing past $100 million, then it's probably a people problem. But until you're doing, eight or nine figures, it's typically a systems problem. So that's number one. Majority of business owners think that my goal is just to hire the best sales rep and then just throw them into the fire. When in reality, it's completely backwards because number one, the best sales rep is not going to be able to fix that because they're not another business owner. They're simply just a sales rep. All they're doing is taking sales calls. And then number two, if you have a bad systems and foundation for that A player to come in, they're just going to churn. And the highest churn rate in your business, if you have a good business, it's not going to be your customer, it's going to be your employees. And sales reps get poached all the time, especially if they're very, very solid and they have a track record. People are reaching out saying, "Hey, you can make this much money at this company." So if you don't have proper systems and processes, that guy's going to leave as soon as possible. So that's essentially how to actually take a look at that. Now, what I would typically do to fix this is you got to look at everything from the bottom up. So first, you got to fix onboarding. When a sales rep onboards, they have to know exactly what they're doing. And what I like to do is you have to break everything and chunk it down so simply that even a 5-year-old could understand it. So a sales rep has to be able to come into a business and look, okay, number one, I do this. Number two, I do this. Number three, I do this. It has to be very, very simple. And a lot of times people are just throwing them, script and saying, okay, you have a call on Monday. Please show up to it. But they don't have actual process to take a look at this first, do this second, do this third. So I build out those processes so simply that, like I said, a 5-year-old should understand it. And if a sales rep comes in and has a question, then they're probably not even, paying attention. So that's how you got to build everything out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. For the company hiring its first real sales team, what does good onboarding and training actually look like in practice? Not
Mhm. Yeah, so I think comes down to kind of like the last question I was saying. You got to build everything out so simply that a 5-year-old could understand it. So how onboarding works, at least with the companies that I work with, is you got to build the foundation. So number one, the sales rep has to understand exactly what they're selling. And this isn't just, oh, this is what we do. They got to understand, okay, number one, who is their target audience? What are their pain points? So that's number two. What are the pain points that this is solving? And then number three, the different price points. Because if a sales rep only knows what you guys do but doesn't understand the audience and their pain points, they're going to struggle on the call. So they need to understand the audience, pain points, and then the pricing. After they understand the product competency, then they move into the sales system. So they have to understand, okay, here's how to handle this objection. Here is how you set an appointment. Here's how to close deal. So they should understand all the basic frameworks of how it goes. And while sales is typically the same amongst all industries, there are some different nuances within different industries between B2B, B2C, and whether it's software or you're selling an agency, there's little differences. So you have to build that out so that they understand it. And then once they understand the product, once they understand the sales system, they have to understand the tech. So a big thing is they got to understand how to actually use the CRM, how to use any of the tech. Because a big thing that I do with my businesses is our systems with our tech and our CRM are so robust that there is not a crazy learning curve, but if you haven't used it before, you would have to spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes understanding how it works. Not that that's all they're doing as a sales rep, but this is important to keep the CRM clean so that you can understand the pipeline and actually have a working system within your processes. So that's essentially how it works. You got to build out the product competency. You got to understand what goes into the sales system. And then lastly, they got to understand the CRM and the tech.
looking at companies that scale cleanly versus those that stay stuck or chaotic. What habits, standards, or decisions separate the owners that build sustainable growth from the ones who don't?
That's a good question. So, majority of this conversation, we've been talking about like systems and processes. That's obviously a very, very basic thing. But I think for people that are scaling to greater heights and even the heights that I have no clue about, like billion-dollar businesses, I think what it really comes down to is their mission. And it's not in some, like woo-woo, like, oh, this is our mission statement. They like to talk about there's a difference between a missionary and a mercenary. A mercenary is doing something because they're strictly getting paid for it, which you can build crazy businesses strictly off being a mercenary trying to get paid. But the biggest companies in the world are built by missionaries. So if you think about like Elon Musk, for example, he's a perfect example of a missionary. He doesn't, I mean, at this point, money doesn't affect him, but he is trying to build the greatest things on planet Earth. And to have that amount of output that he's doing, strictly money would not do it for him. So the reason why he's able to build these companies is because he truly has a mission. For example, he is trying to get to Mars. He's trying to build on Mars. That has a greater effect than any type of money can buy. And I think when your founder is a missionary, they can attract other people that are missionaries. And if the employees are missionaries, then you're able to scale to greater heights.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is very different energy. Yeah, when you think big, when you have that big vision, it is like
Mhm.
coming with bigger container, and this bigger
Yep.
Like bigger
Exactly.
you have, bigger you are given in order to fulfill your dream. Yes, and when you have that big vision, of course, you will also resonate with people who understand your big vision and also who want to take actions according to that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yes, thank you so much, John, for sharing. It was amazing what you just shared, and what was very valuable for our listeners. And appreciate for your time and sharing your expertise. Before we wrap up this episode, if there would be one advice which you would give to business owners to grow their business, what it would be?
I would say stay away from shiny object syndrome. Every single business owner and every single human gets, a crazy dopamine rush trying new things. But in reality, you're going to be able to scale your business way faster if you just stick to one thing, stick to the thing that you're doing currently and just scale it. Because people always want to change industries, change products, or change this new crazy idea. But in reality, the best business model is the one that you stay in the longest.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Thank you so much and appreciate your time. And again,
Thank you so much.
amazing guest on our podcast. And looking forward to see you again in our future episodes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.